siblings claim late dad is mysterious plane hijacker D.B. Cooper after finding hidden parachute in home, 1 in a billion. A pair of North Carolina siblings claim their late father is the ever-elusive Boeing hijacker D.B. Cooper after allegedly finding his parachute hidden in their home, according to a new report. Shantae and Rick McCoy III claim their father, Richard McCoy Jr., was the infamous fugitive who disappeared when he leaped out of a Boeing plane with $200,000 in cash after taking passengers and crew hostage in 1971, the Cowboy State Daily reports. The siblings said they waited until their mother's death in 2020 to come forward, fearing she could be implicated as the parachute that allegedly belonged to Cooper was found in her storage stash outside the house. After her death, the siblings met with aviation YouTuber Dan Grider, who has seen the parachute and believes it's the very one Cooper used in 1971. That rig is literally 1 in a billion, Grider told the local outlet about the unique parachute he saw. Grider claimed the parachute at the McCoy's home matched a modified parachute prepared by veteran skydiver Earl Cossey for police as part of Cooper's demands before he disappeared somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Nevada. D.B. Cooper sleuths have raised the possibility that Richard Jr. was the fugitive for years given his own criminal past. The McCoy siblings told Grider they've known the truth for years, but talking about it remained taboo in their family over worries that law enforcement would implicate their mother, Karen, in both hijackings. Grider published his latest theory and images of the parachute, with the FBI allegedly reaching out to the McCoys to see the evidence. The McCoys told the Daily the FBI searched the North Carolina complex for additional clues and took possession of the parachute in 2023, with Rick also providing investigators with a DNA sample. The agents allegedly informed him that the next step could be to exhume his father's body, but such a request has yet to be made.
Has the mystery of D.B. Cooper finally been solved? The infamous fugitive hijacked a plane in 1971, demanding $200,000 cash and 4 parachutes before jumping out of the plane near Washington, never to be heard from again. Now, North Carolina siblings Shantae and Rick McCoy III have revealed they believe their father, Richard McCoy Jr., was D.B. Cooper, and they have a parachute to prove it. McCoy was arrested 5 months after D.B. Cooper disappeared for a similar hijacking in Utah and killed in a shootout with police after escaping prison. The siblings consulted with aviation YouTuber Dan Grider, who believes the parachute they found hidden in their home was D.B. Cooper's, saying the modifications on it are 1 in a billion. What do you think?
After more than 50 years, we have finally discovered who D.B. Cooper was. The son of Richard McCoy called the FBI last week after watching a movie about D.B. Cooper and realizing it's a lot like his dad. That's because when he was a child 51 years ago, his dad boarded a flight and went missing. Records are now showing that that flight was the same one that D.B. Cooper went on in 1974. When the FBI showed up and started asking questions, they found this parachute and thousands of crippled dollar bills like this that can't be used anymore. The homeowner said that one day 50 years ago while they were gone, this stuff just showed up in the garage and they didn't think anything of it. Coincidentally, this stuff showed up 1 week after D.B. Cooper or Richard McCoy went missing, meaning he simply stopped by his home, stashed all this stuff, and ran away to never be seen again. To this day, McCoy or D.B. Cooper has most likely passed away. He would most likely be in his 90s if he's still alive today. The FBI came out asking him to come forward and that all criminal charges are dropped, simply wanting to put an end to this case once and for all. Do you believe this man? Let me know in the comments yes or no, and give me a follow for updates.
Siblings claim late dad is mysterious plane hijacker D.B. Cooper after finding hidden parachute in home, 1 in a billion. A pair of North Carolina siblings claim their late father is the ever-elusive Boeing hijacker D.B. Cooper after allegedly finding his parachute hidden in their home, according to a new report. Shantae and Rick McCoy III claim their father, Richard McCoy Jr., was the infamous fugitive who disappeared when he leaped out of a Boeing plane with $200,000 in cash after taking passengers and crew hostage in 1971, the Cowboy State Daily reports. The siblings said they waited until their mother's death in 2020 to come forward, fearing she could be implicated as the parachute that allegedly belonged to Cooper was found in her storage stash outside the house. After her death, the siblings met with aviation YouTuber Dan Grider, who has seen the parachute and believes it's the very one Cooper used in 1971. That rig is literally 1 in a billion, Grider told the local outlet about the unique parachute he saw. Grider claimed the parachute at the McCoy's home matched a modified parachute prepared by veteran skydiver Earl Cossey for police as part of Cooper's demands before he disappeared somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Nevada. D.B. Cooper sleuths have raised the possibility that Richard Jr. was the fugitive for years given his own criminal past. The McCoy siblings told Grider they've known the truth for years, but talking about it remained taboo in their family over worries that law enforcement would implicate their mother, Karen, in both hijackings. Grider published his latest theory and images of the parachute, with the FBI allegedly reaching out to the McCoys to see the evidence. The McCoys told the Daily the FBI searched the North Carolina complex for additional clues and took possession of the parachute in 2023, with Rick also providing investigators with a DNA sample. The agents allegedly informed him that the next step could be to exhume his father's body, but such a request has yet to be made.
So they've just found out the identity of D.B. Cooper being a guy called Richard McCoy. Now, I don't care, because to me, it's going to be this man. So every time you see a video about DB Cooper, just comment this man, because this man deserves more praise. Because to me, I'm going to tell my kids, this is the real DB Cooper. Don't believe the news.
Hey true crimers, let's talk about a heist. This is the case of one of the most infamous disappearing acts of all time, DB Cooper. On November 24th, 1971, a man who identified himself as Dan Cooper used cash only to buy a one-way ticket on Flight 305 to Seattle, Washington, which was only a 30-minute flight. So Dan, who was described by witnesses as being a middle-aged man, he was wearing a business suit, he had a tie, and that was about it. He boarded the Boeing 727, yes, this is the exact plane. He plopped down in his seat, ordered a bourbon and soda, and that's the end of the story. Bye! Okay, the flight out of Portland took off at 2:50 p.m., the day before Thanksgiving. Just after takeoff, Mr. Cooper here would hand a note to the closest flight attendant to him. Thinking it was some sort of love note or a phone number, she just dropped it into her purse. He noticed and said, ma'am, you better take a look at that note. I have a bomb. He then directed her to sit next to him. She asked to see the bomb. He opened up his little briefcase, and there it was. 8 red cylinders, 4 on top of 4. And they were all attached to wires with red insulation, and then there was a large battery attached to all of it. He demanded $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane. The flight attendant then told the pilot. The pilot, William Scott, and this is the flight attendant, told the Seattle Tacoma Air Traffic Control, which then they told authorities and the FBI. To make a long story short, his demands were met. When they landed at the Tacoma-Seattle airport, DB Cooper relayed a really complicated plan to the flight crew about where they were going next and how to prep the plane. All the passengers were allowed to leave. The only people remaining on board were the cockpit crew. The plan was to fly to Mexico City, to not pressurize the cabin, and the rear exit door would be remaining open. So at 7:40 p.m., the plane took off. The only demand that wasn't really met was the exit door was not to remain open when the plane took off because it was too unsafe. Cooper told the flight attendant to go into the cockpit. She saw him tie something around his waist, probably a money bag. At around 8 p.m., the crew noticed a massive change in pressure, which indicated to them that the rear door was now open. At around 8:13 p.m., the plane was going crazy, but they finally stabilized it. The plane landed at 10:15 in Reno, Nevada. After a detailed and armed search of the plane, DB Cooper was gone. It was then determined that he obviously jumped out of the plane. Some children would find this parachute, which they all believed was the one that DB Cooper used. This is the actual tie DB Cooper was wearing. In 1980, they found some of the ransom money, which they matched by the serial numbers, but they only have theories as to why it was there. On July 8, 2016, the FBI suspended its investigation into DB Cooper. Theories abound about who he was? Well, they're just theories, because to this day, he's never been identified.
Was Richard McCoy Jr. the elusive DB Cooper? Discover the astonishing parallels between these two infamous hijackings and the man who might have pulled off the crime of the century twice. Richard McCoy Jr., a Vietnam War veteran and helicopter pilot, executed a baffling hijacking in 1972, just 5 months after DB Cooper vanished into thin air. Boarding a United Airlines flight, McCoy handed the stewardess a note claiming he had a bomb. His demand? $500,000 and 4 parachutes. Sound familiar? McCoy's escape was almost a mirror image of Cooper's. After receiving the ransom, he parachuted out of the plane, disappearing into the night. However, McCoy's luck ran out when the FBI tracked him down just 2 days later. He was convicted and sentenced to 45 years in prison, but that's not the end. McCoy managed a daring escape from prison in 1974, only to be killed in a shootout with the FBI. The similarities between McCoy's hijacking and Cooper's led many to speculate that McCoy was, in fact, DB Cooper. The FBI, however, dismissed this theory, pointing out differences in the hijacker's methods and physical descriptions. Yet, the mystery endures. Some believe McCoy's military background gave him the skills needed for both heists. Others argue that the timing and similarities are too coincidental to ignore. So, was Richard McCoy Jr. actually DB Cooper, or is this just another wild theory? Watch the full video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history's most captivating mysteries. Thanks for watching.
This man committed the perfect crime. On November 24th, 1971, A man who went by the name of Dan Cooper boarded a Northwest Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper slipped a note to the stewardess demanding $200,000 and 4 parachutes. He then calmly said, "Miss, I have a bomb," and directed her to sit in the seat next to him. The plane then landed in Seattle, and airline employees delivered the cash and parachutes to him, while Cooper allowed all the passengers to disembark. Shortly after that, he demanded to be flown southeast towards Mexico City. After the second takeoff, Cooper told the air stewardess to go to the cockpit and stay there with the door closed. Moments later, the light flashed, indicating the airplane door had been opened, and Cooper was never seen again. Till today, D.B. Cooper remains at large. That is why.
November 24th, 1971. A day shrouded in mystery. A man known only as D.B. Cooper boards Northwest Airlines Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. Cooper is no ordinary passenger. He hands a note to a flight attendant, revealing he has a bomb and demanding $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The plane lands in Seattle. The passengers are released, the ransom is paid, and Cooper demands to be flown to Mexico. But Cooper has no intention of landing in Mexico. Somewhere over the southwestern Washington, he does the unthinkable. D.B. Cooper jumps from the plane into the night, vanishing into thin air. Despite one of the most extensive manhunts in history, neither Cooper nor the money is ever found. The case of D.B. Cooper remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in U.S. history. A man who vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a trail of questions. Who was D.B. Cooper? Did he survive his daring escape? And where did he go? The answers, like Cooper himself, remain elusive.
But kept the crew. He ordered the plane to take off again, this time heading for Mexico City. But Cooper had other plans. Mid-flight, somewhere over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper did the unthinkable. After calmly instructing the crew on speed and altitude, he opened the rear stairs of the Boeing 727 and jumped into the freezing night, disappearing into the storm below. When the plane landed, Cooper was gone, along with the money. The only trace left behind was his clip-on tie, a few cigarette butts, and the unused parachutes. Despite an extensive manhunt, no trace of Cooper was ever found. The FBI combed the mountains and forests, but it was as if Cooper had vanished into thin air. In 1980, nearly a decade later, a boy found $20 bills matching the serial numbers of the ransom money buried along the Columbia River, but no other trace of Cooper or the rest of the money surfaced. This clue only deepened the mystery. Did Cooper survive the jump? Had he buried part of the money to throw investigators off his trail? Over the years, countless theories emerged. Some believed Cooper was an expert skydiver who meticulously planned his escape. Others argued he was an amateur who likely died in the wilderness soon after the jump. Several suspects have been named, from ex-military men to everyday criminals, but none have definitively matched the elusive D.B. Cooper. One theory suggested Cooper was a former military operative with experience in parachuting and covert operations. His calm demeanor and knowledge of aircraft mechanics pointed to someone with specialized training. Another theory claimed Cooper was simply an ordinary man desperate for a way out who took a leap of faith and vanished without a trace. The man known as D.B. Cooper remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. Did he die in the wilderness? Or did he pull off the perfect crime and disappear forever? To this day, no one knows what really happened to the man who vanished into the night sky, taking with him $200,000 and a place in legend.